Yes, hello guys. In this video, I'm going to be telling you how I passed the FIFA Agent exam. So, a lot have been made of the exam, and rightly so, how difficult it is, how challenging this is. But also, I also think most of this have been made of the exam because of lack of preparation, and many people don't know how the exam is really actually structured. So, now I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and ideas how I did mine, and then you can do the same with the exact strategy I used. So I'm Gaucho Brian, FIFA licensed agent living in Finland, and I'll be here giving you every details as day, every day, let's say during the evening. Yes, because I don't know wherever you're watching from, but actually my time is evening, is the evening, 9:30 finish time here. But probably if you're watching from South America or whatsoever place, it might be different time. But anyways, I will give you exact strategy on how I did mine so that you can take, let's say, some little bits of it. Of course, you need to study and do a lot of work because I also did a lot of work behind the scenes. Okay, so my first step when I started preparing for the exam was just to look at the materials, just to know how the materials look like. So the first thing I did was, because I knew it was an open book exam, I already had every information about the exam. So it's very important if you are preparing for exam, you should have every details about the exam. How is it going to be set up? So uh, thank you for showing up, Derry. Great to know that. I'm happy. I'm happy you like that. Okay, but let's go. My main thing was just to first know how the exam is set up, the strategy. Yeah. So welcome everyone, and I'm happy you guys are here, or I really appreciate. So before I go more deep into it, so I'm happy to also see you guys, and also thanks for your message. But I'm happy to also see you guys as well. Yeah. So my own strategy when I was preparing for the exam, the first thing is I had to know the material, what I was going to expect. Because normally, no matter how you can prepare for an exam, the first thing you have to know is how the exam is prepared. You should already have that in your brain that when you go inside the exam, you should know what to expect. You don't want to go inside the exam and someone is telling you that, okay, we have to do this, we have to do this. No. So the first thing is that I had an idea of how the exam is going to be set. So I knew in my time I was writing, same like your time now you're writing, you're going to sit at your home or wherever you may decide to sit. So you have to have all those information because these little things prepare you already for the exam. But now I'm going to give you my story how I did. So, but I'm just trying to also let you people know that anyone want to write the exam, the first thing is that you have to prepare yourself. Preparing yourself is you have to know what to expect from the exam. You have to know how everything is planned so that you don't have to worry about those things. There are people who always try to write the exam and they try to prepare in the last minute. They are looking for a camera, they are looking for phone, the monitor, whatsoever, how they'll set. So it winds up your hair, it makes you up, not really focus on the exam day. So this is how I did. 3 months prior to it, I started preparing my 3 months. You can prepare earlier. I'm not saying I just said because I had time, I started preparing 3 months earlier. So what I did was each time I will spend 2 hours. I will spend 2 hours on just looking at the material. What I used to do is I had a book. I had a book like this. I had a book like this. But this is not, but I'm just giving an example. I had a book like this with already my questions and exam things. So when I read the study material, sometimes I'll just hang on my sofa and I'll just do like this. I'll just be looking at the table of content, looking at the table of content. If I do it for close to 2 hours and then I can fall asleep or whatsoever. But anyways, what was I doing there? I was just trying to learn how I can get to master the book, also the table of content. So, because when you want to start learning how to use the book, the first thing is that you have to know how the table of content is. To know how the table of content is, the only thing you can do is sometimes, let's say, when you sit on your sofa, you open a book with a table of content, something, and you're just, let's say, for example, as you can see this book with a table of content, I will just be going through it and just going through the table of content, familiarizing myself with it, those kind, and then after some time. So what I was trying to do there is just to memorize that. Okay, how does the table of content look? FIFA statutes, I will go, for example, FIFA Statutes, FIFA Disciplinary Code, FIFA Ethics Code. So I start knowing that after the FIFA Statutes, is it the FIFA Ethics Code? Is it the FIFA Disciplinary Code? After the Disciplinary Code, is it FIFA Clearing? I'm not saying that it's in that order, but you're just trying to know those structure. Then the next thing I'll be looking at, I'll just be mastering the pages. If FIFA Statutes is from 1 to 45, what does the next is FIFA Ethics Code? Is it from 45 to 75? And then what is disciplinary code? Is it from 75 to 110? Is it after the disciplinary code? It can, for example, RSTP. Is it from page 150 to page 250? Is it after RSTP? What does is it FIFA clearing houses? What does it come? Is it placed from page 250 to page 270 something? After FIFA clearing house, is it the football agent regular? So I was just trying to always like just have a look. What I was doing to myself here is the when you master the table of content, guys, believe me, this is a big thing. I'm telling you guys. When you master the table of content, the moment you are in the exam and they ask a question which is under the RSTP, you don't reflect. You just go pap or under RSTP, and then you open the because on your head you already know the RSTP is page 150 to page 250. You're going straight to the, if you don't know the question, you're going straight to that table of content. You're opening 150 to 250. Look at the table of content. If it's like under transfer, you go after that, you go so quick, and you go to transfer. The moment you go to that transfer, and then now you look at those topics, you look at those little topics. What was it saying? Was it under minor or whatsoever? This is one secret that you can find those things quick. But to find those think quick, you also have to know the table of content. You see, so this is one very good method that people that I used. So let's say when I was writing, there were questions that, let's say, because I had studied a lot, probably I studied a lot about the book because I was reading day and night. So probably I could maybe even rehearse the book. But the few questions that I did, because I did 17 questions completely okay on my head, off head, I did 17. So 3 that I didn't know, I had almost like let's say 25 minutes like that. So I had a lot of time because when I got into the exam, because I had read and did a lot of things, answered a lot of past questions, I answered a lot of past questions, then I knew how to use the book. I knew how to use the book. What I mean by I knew how to use the open book is like I could find, if you give me a question under RSTP, I could find it within 1 minute and remove the answer as quick as possible because I knew that RSTP is on a certain page. I knew that bridge, let's say, for example, if you give me a question on that bridge transfer, I knew that bridge transfer was on a specific page, article what. So I knew all those things because I've been familiarizing myself a lot with the book. But without withstanding, if you don't know, there are still ways you can do that. So just to make it clear, try to use the book. Those were the things that I used. I did that. I used the book to familiarize myself, to try to get to have an idea of how, if anything is difficult, I can pick through it. So that was the first thing, to know how the exam is set. The next thing, how to use the book. Then the next thing I looked at more was also the structure of the exam. The structure was quite very important for me because I knew that I wanted to know what to expect. What I mean, the structure is, I knew the exam was going to be 60 minutes. And in those 60 minutes, when I was coming into the hall, I was prepared. I was prepared for that. So I knew 60 minutes. And in those 60 minutes, I also knew that each question was 3 minutes. So that's how I was prepared. I knew that if I answer any question more than 3 minutes, I'm already working on a time of another question. So I made sure that any question that I have, it should be giving me 3 minutes. So those were the things that they were already in my head, maximum 3 minutes. So what I did also to solve those problems, I made sure that most of the questions are answered. I answer it as quick as possible so that the next one, so that I can have time to relocate for other questions. So if a question was easy, for example, I'll make sure I answer it within 30 seconds, as quick as possible. Yes, if so that let's say the next time I could relocate to another question. So these were the little bits I was always thinking about, so that I have time for myself. And also, I was also very aware of the pass rate of the exam. Yes, that the pass rate is low. And even this year, if I write, last year was more lower. Last year was 18%, was 18% pass rate. And then this the year I wrote, that's 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was 40 something, 40, I think, for some pass rate. So each year, so I was aware that it's a difficult exam. So I knew I had to make sure that I'm also like spot on, trying to do a lot of things right. And then your preparation for the exam, you cannot start preparing. Then one thing also that I did was that I started preparing early. So I prepared more early than others. So you cannot prepare for 3 weeks and write the exam, except you're just going there to do multiple, because it's multiple choice, just to do guesswork. So what I did is that I started all preparing earlier. This was what I did. So I've spoken about the structure. What I told you, that the structure, I knew already at the back of my brain that this exam is 20 minutes. I mean, it's 60 minutes, 20 multiple choice questions, 75% pass rate, which means I had to pass 15. And I knew also there's an open book exam. So I had all these things. And then lastly, as I also told you, I knew that each question was maximum 3 minutes. Yeah. So those were the things that I was trying to look at. That I have to be spot on. I have to know what is happening. Then I came now also to say topics to focus on. I started thinking of, okay, this exam is a structural exam. What do I need to focus on more? What the kind of things do I need to really focus on that will benefit me? I already had in my brain that, because I had read, I will be looking at the question. I read a lot. I discovered that the RSTP and the FIFA Football Agent Regulation carry most bulky, the most huge bulky part. 70, actually, almost like statistics prove that it carries like almost like 70% of the questions, or 70%. But the problem also about this is that you cannot ignore the other parts, because if you fail just few, you just have to fail just, if you fail just five, if you fail more than five, you'll fail the exam. So which means it also still make it more tricky, that you have to read FIFA statutes, FIFA ethics code, FIFA disciplinary code, all those kind of things. But now you have to find a strategy to pay attention more to the one that carry more marks, and then still know where those FIFA statutes, FIFA excuse me, to know where the FIFA status and all those other things are. So this is where you have to learn how to use the book. So if you focus more on those, if you focus, let's say, put 110% on the RSTP and the FIFA Football Agent Regulation, and then take part of it, and also now focus on looking at the, when you're using the book, focus on using the book to look, how do they call it, the FIFA status, all those places to look, so that learn how to use the book very well. That if they say something on that FIFA status, you can locate the answer within 3 minutes. You're very good to go. So if I could say, I'll give a roadmap, is that, yeah, I mean, a proven strategy is that read all RSTP. If you can know the RSTP and the FIFA Agent Football Regulation to your fingertips, that's majority, like 70%. Then the other parts, you need to know how to locate answers. You still read, but not to really focus on, but you know how to locate your answers on it. You know a lot of the other parts, you can know the table of content very well, so that when you have a question coming from those parts, you can find it. But you need to be able to find those questions within less than 3 minutes, and have the answer. So that will be a good structural approach for you. So, but anyways, these things I'm giving here, the when I'll be giving the course will start on 7 April, and I think the course will be opening some starting 7 April. We'll be doing some practical examples and going into details that most people writing the exam, I would like, for example, when I'm teaching, that if we can have 100% pass rate, that would be great. So each thing that I'm doing, I will try to put it into practice, so that I show you some little bit of tips that, okay, this is how you find an answer. This is how you start the exam. This is how you find your answer. This is how you do things as quick as possible. So that, let's say, if you have 60 minutes for a question, if you have 60 minutes, if you can focus structurally, let's say that in the first 35 minutes you have answered all your questions, then you have like maybe let's say uh, 3 or 4 questions that you can try to go through that answer. And then if you can have if you need to learn how to use the book to like say find the answer as quick as possible. So that would be a great strategy that I can, let's say, give you guys, that when you go into the exam, you already have it on your head that okay, when I enter here, the first thing when I sit, I open the laptop. When they say go, I start answering everything that I know of head as quick as possible. Answer. The one that is more difficult, you jump. The one that you know is easy because you have been reading with what we will do in the course, you just start answering as quick as possible. Answering. The moment when you answer from there, if you, let's say you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all those are good to go. If you come, let's say question 7 is difficult, you discover that you have to take some time there. You leave it a little bit. Answer. When you arrive now at 20, then now when you have done the ones that you have done, you now start coming the one that gives you a little bit of thinking that you cannot just answer as quick as possible. This is a strategy I'm saying for people who have read and people, or if you have not read, the people that will teach them the course, because I'll try to give you ideas also. This, so when you have read, this is the most simplest way to pass the exam. That you answer most questions that you have been doing. I mean, most questions off head. For example, if they say a representation agreement takes how long? If they say that representation agreement takes, it takes how long? You say maximum 2 years. If you see the answer there, you just put it. Then they say, what is a breach of transfer? They will give you A, B, C, D. Breach of transfer, this is when, let me say, a transfer goes within 16 weeks. 16 weeks. Consecutive transfer within 16 weeks. Okay, so if you see those kind of answers, you put it. Then they say, yes, I'm just trying to give questions off head that they'll be coming. Yeah, and then they can say what is third party. That question also, probably those questions mostly always come. What's a third party? Yeah, you answer also. What is training compensation? And then they will be giving, they will not, most of the time they don't ask you what is training compensation. They give something that is more complicated, then leads into training compensation. So you need to learn how to interpret questions. Those are also one of the things that I will need to be telling you people, if I'm doing, when I'm doing the course with you people, we can read a question, we learn how to interpret that question, because another trickiest thing of the exam is interpreting question. A question might be this might be this lengthy, but the answer is just, but it just takes normal common sense to answer that question. So what FIFA does is that they give a very bulky question which is quite lengthy. You read, then you say, you're a little bit confused. Whereas if you apply a little bit of common sense, you discover that that question, no, it's not actually, you discover that question is not actually the thing. They are just trying to take you to different places. So these are the things that I will try to also focus on, that you should learn how to interpret question, because that's very huge. Learning how to interpret question at the FIFA Agent exam is a massive thing. If you know how to interpret question, then you are very good to go, because sometimes they don't give you the direct question that they say, what is the maximum duration of a representative agreement? And then you just say 2 years, because everyone will know that, okay, 2 years, and which is non-renewable. That's the answer. But they can turn up with something and say, okay, they can give a question that quite lengthy before they say, okay, this player signed a contract, and then they put different strings attached to it, so that just to confuse you up. But it's always that kind of thing that it's not always direct. So the reason why FIFA does this is that they try to pick your brain on how you can reason, because as I said, the exam is complicated, but when you pass it, it's also very great, because they are trying to put you also, they are already trying to put you in the place that when you go into the industry, you don't go someone who has not too much has something upstairs when you're negotiating with people on the boardroom, with sporting directors, because this, you are dealing with people and you're dealing with finances. Football is a lucrative business that controls billions of euros, dollars, or whatsoever currency you may call. So you need to have a brain to be able to work with, manipulate, or let me say it's not manipulate, but you to be able to talk and negotiate with people, or also see reason, because you are representing people as an agent. You are representing a human being. Apart from representing, it's almost you are having that person's life in your hand. So if you go to represent a player and you represent that person poor, let's say for example, if you're on a board, if you're sitting with a sporting director and they speak of something like, okay, this is a contract in front of you. What can you do you agree? Just sign it there. Normal agents take time. They'll look at, let's see at the bonus, let's see the bonuses, let's see the percentages, let's see what my player can have. But normal local agents, people who are not really smart, they'll just look at it and say, hey, this is quite okay. We don't need well, I'm just happy for him to sign. So you have to know that you have to know to negotiate and all those things. So that's why the exam is always complicated, because they try to give you a little bit of common sense so that when you go actually into the field, you must have used some knowledge to be able to pass the exam. Look at the situation last year. Last year was 18%, about 18 point something percent people passed. So, which means that's very, very drastic. So each year is getting more tougher. And now also you just write the exam once a year. So it will be advisable for you to put more effort so that when you pass this year, you can go into the industry. Okay, your class, but have not heard from you. I applied for your class, but I've not heard from you. Yes, as if you applied for the class, yes, this March, or this March, yes, I'm going to be sending everyone the message with this, and when it's open for registration, when the course is open. So soon everything will be out and everything will be arranged. So it's just a matter of time. Then we wait and see how everything is okay. But as I said, just be patient. This March, everything will be okay. But yes, that's what I was saying. The exam is that tricky, so you just need to prepare yourself, and then everything will be fine by that. So let's see. So topics to focus on, or to focus on topics. As I said, if you are preparing for the exam, there are two topics you want to look very, very keenly: the RSTP and the FFAR. As I said, so you can focus on these topics a lot, but of course, it doesn't mean that you neglect the other ones. You still need to look at the other ones, because majority of the exam comes from this. So those are things that you need to also pay attention to. As I said, this is the way I'm trying to speak to people also to the way I read and passed the exam also, because I was focused on also specific topic. I had to be strategic because I knew this is 600 something pages. But the first thing is that you cannot read all those books, and you cannot read the book all I know. So you have to also learn how does the exam work, and how is the format, how to use the open book, how to be able to interpret questions. So all those things, basically you have to have an idea of it. If they give you a lengthy question, how do you interpret it? If they give you a question, do you know whether does this question refers to this topic? Does it refers to RSTP? Because there's one thing I also notice is that when you don't read, they can give a question on the FIFA football agent regulation. You think maybe it's an RSTP question. You go and start searching it. Let's take, for example, they can give a question based on minor or transfer, because sometimes you have transfer on the RSTP. On the FIFA football agent regulation, but most of the time you see transfer on the RSTP side. So you need to be able to know where to find the question. What the question and where the location can be if you're using the book. So those are the little things you need to have an idea about already. And so that was what I did, that I had to know. I have to have an idea of all these things. Okay, then another thing that you need to also have an idea is like the definitions. Like when you start what is protected period, they can say protected period, and then they can give a definition of protected period. Then they put A, it means this; B, it means this; C, and they ask you. And for example, as we all know, or we don't know, I don't want to assume that people know. I always say, what is protected period? Those are one of the things that, as an agent, even if you are not writing the exam, you need to already know that, because you'll be applying those things when you're doing contracts. For example, protected period, is a period when a player's when between the age of when is at the age of 28, your protected period. If you have not reached 28, your protected period is 3 years. If you're 28 and above, your protected period is 2 years. And I come back to give the case of Bruno Fernandes because I want to apply this scenario easily so that you can have a picture of it. You can have that picture in your brain. Even when you're in the exam, if these kind of things come, you can already have an idea. When Bruno Fernandes signed a contract with Manchester United, August 2024, he was 29 years. So if I'm asking you, what is a protected period? You discover that his protected period is 2 years because 28, your protected period is 2 years. Before 28, your protected period is 3 years. So by then you can already know that a protect and in this protect, if you breach contract, you face as a player, you face sporting sanction and you fine. Same like the club. If a club breach contract, a club can be suspended from transfer window. That's how huge it is. Of course, a contract said breach normally you will still face consequences. But if you breach a contract during protected period, it's even more severe. That is why they call it protected period, because it's a period in a player's life and the club that they want stability. Okay, so I hope you people understood this. So those were the things that can come that you need to have an idea already of how the exam this thing. It's almost like also when we talk of there's also one common thing, bridge transfer. A bridge transfer. What is a bridge transfer? Those kind of things are things that you should be having an idea of how to read and how to know, because those are things that you're going to apply. Your player might face this also in future. A bridge transfer is a when a transfer, let me say, if I explain in a local term, is when a player moves club A, he goes from club A to club B, from B to C within 16 weeks. So what happens here is that FIFA sees is like, oh, why has this person? Let's take for example, you are at your old you have a club in August, then you move to September, you go to club B. Then before the transfer window closes, no, or let's say in June, from June you have a club. Then July at the middle of the transfer, you move club. Then August before the transfer want to shut down, you move club again. So FIFA now is going to look at that situation because one nice thing is that every transfer that happens now in modern football is registered in the FIFA system, ITC. So FIFA sees everything that happens. So in this case, FIFA is going to ask, why did this player move from club A to B, from B to C? Why couldn't he play at club B? There must be something behind. And the reason for a breach of transfer is that they are trying to always bypass one club not to pay compensation. So FIFA always looks at it because the reason breach of transfer always happens is that there's a club in the middle that tries to bypass training compensation, not to pay the development club training compensation. So the reason FIFA always stops this is that the club who has been training that player for a long time must have some compensation. Majority of the time, or must have some compensation for their time that they have been training that player. So what clubs usually do before was they will do this bridge transfer. They'll transfer this player. They'll first transfer the player to a club, then the next they transfer him again to bypass the rule. So now those things are forbidden. If FIFA finds out that you're doing breach of transfer, if they catch you, you pay very huge fine because you're trying to trick people. So that's how it happens with breach of transfer. So those are the things that I want to explain this naturally so that you understand, so that you can already have the picture in your head in the exam. Sometimes I don't need you need to understand the idea of why this is forbidden. Okay, so that you can have an idea. Another one, what would be another good question that is always like most popular questions that always come about? Mm, let's see, there's this third party ownership. Yes, third party owners. Third party. Third party. Okay, this I'm going to explain. I think I've been speaking about this. If most of you have been watching my channel, third party is Carlos Tevez. Third party came in to stop when Carlos Tevez Mascherano moved from South America to West Ham. So This transfer, when they moved from South America to West Ham, they they had already a third party, a finance company looking after them, which means they had a contract with that finance company. So now, when West Ham brought Mascherano and Tevez into the club, they had a problem because now they had a contract with another person, with another group, which is called a third party. That's a third party because a third party is someone who is not involved with you people. It's an outsider. So now West Ham couldn't do any deal without having to contact those other people. So if they did something, they'll always have to contact the other people. So it became like you have a player, but you cannot do anything because you must contact another person. And if the person said no, then you don't do anything. You cannot move forward. So this was very, very tricky. That's why 2015, the third party had to come into a stop. So FIFA came around and discovered that okay, third party has to be banned. If you're moving clubs, there's no way that you're going to move clubs from, let's take for example, you're going to move clubs from, let's say if you move from South America to England, then there's another person having a right over you. So all these things stopped now. And also this thing came into the other rules also that changed was the agency was also regulated. I think this was 2023. The agency also was regulated that parents cannot be agent anymore. Before as an agent, your father could be your agent. Like Neymar father used to be his agent, or many players, because this was a way that they could just keep the money indoor. Let's take, for example, if you're a player, you just turn up and say, okay, my son is a good player, I'm going to represent him. Since he's good, clubs are just going to call, or I can call clubs, one of few clubs. But FIFA also found out that in this situation, it was not really professional. And in that case, this also had to stop. So these were also few things that the agency, because FIFA keep updating and trying to regulate the agency so that it looks more professional. So, but in any ways, these are things that you need to have an idea. What is third party? What is bridge transfer? What is training compensation? Training compensation is, just to give you an idea, training compensation is money paid for a club who trains a player between the age of 12 to 21. Okay, 12 to 21. And then there's also something like a solidarity mechanism. Solidarity mechanism is between when there's an international transfer, the percentage, the percentage is 5%. Let's take, for example, if I want to give an example of a player that you people might have an idea of. Let's see. I already did the pre-exam readiness test. When do I get a notification? I'm doing it on the 28th April. You already did the pre-exam readiness test. When are you doing when are you getting a notification? If you already did, if you have not gotten it, you're going to get it soon. So just hold on. As long as if you have not, you're going to get it soon. Yeah. So if you're writing on the 28th of April, so you don't need to worry about that. I can double check that tomorrow, then I will also let you know. But I think most of these things you'll be informed, so not to worry about. Yeah. Where was I? Where was I? Let's say, was it training compensation or solidarity? Okay, solidarity mechanism. I was talking about solidarity mechanism. Okay, solidarity mechanism is a situation where each transfer, 5% of that transfer has to be paid, has to be distributed to the formative clubs when the player is still at the age from 1 to 23. So let's take, for example, let's look, I want to look at the case of Kylian Mbappe. Thank you. I'm a new follower. Much blessings. Okay, thanks. Welcome also to the channel. Yes. Welcome, and I hope you're enjoying the show. So where are you watching from? And just let us know. If you're watching, let us know where you're watching from, and also agent, or are you writing the exam? Okay, but anyways, to continue, let's look at Kylian Mbappe. Okay, let's look at Kylian Mbappe's situation. So we look at solidarity mechanism. Let's take, for example, Mbappe. If Mbappe moved from Paris Saint-Germain to, he moved from Paris Saint-Germain, from His first club was Monaco to Paris Saint-Germain. It was a loan transfer, then made permanent, 180 million, if I'm not mistaken. So now, how does solidarity mechanism apply? So, if we read at solidarity mechanism is applied when you go through an international transfer, and then go through a 5% of your transfer is being shared to 5% of the money is being shared into the clubs that train you. So let's just give it an example. Let's take, for example, a player. I want to make this, let you understand this. So let's say a player moves from France to, let me say, England for 200 million, okay? And from France to England for 200 million, and he has been playing for, let's say, 5 clubs. He has been playing for 5 clubs before he turned 23. So those 5 clubs that he has been playing before he turns 23, at the age of 12 to 23, 5% of that 200 million. What is 5% of 200 million? You can calculate that 5% of 200 million. Then that money will be shared to those 5 clubs. That is what we call solidarity mechanism. So that's how solidarity mechanism is being calculated. 5% of the transfer fee shared to the club would train the player between the age of 12 to 23. Okay, so that's how you get solidarity mechanism. So these are a little bit of things that you can just have an idea, of what is happening, so that you know how to deal with the situation if you are even in the, let me say, if it's the FIFA exam, or even when you are now starting to work as an agent. Because I think most of you guys, when you write your exam, some people will say they don't want to start their own agency. Some people want to work for big agencies. One of the things that you get for big agencies, is that you have to provide value. And one of the value that you have to provide is that the agents who are very old, their brains are not really fresh as what I'm saying here every day. They don't have these rules regularly, because it's hard to keep doing, let me say, thinking these rules, trying to read, do all these things. It's quite challenging, because probably they might be dealing with like 20, 30 transfers. So they need someone who has a fresh brain to always go there and say, okay, hey, your job here is to tell us about what is happening, what FIFA is updating, or what FIFA is telling us about the rules and regulation. So your advantage as a new agent is that you should know the rules. You provide that value for them. You can help them. Because I tell you, for example, if an agent has been working for 30 years in this industry, he doesn't have time to go and read the rules every time. What he has time for is just to negotiate, do deals, sit with sporting directors, try to make a transfer. So for you now to get to work with those big agencies, one thing you'll be doing is you have to have an idea that they don't have. So your own value, you have to provide value for them. And one of the ways to provide value is that, because you're just from writing the exam, they will need you because you have passed the exam and you know the rules still. Yeah. So that's why I discovered in this agency that most big agency, for example, I'm on LinkedIn, most big agency, they always call me and ask me, okay, what is this? What is this? What is this? Can I have a consultation with you? Can I have a consultation call with you for you to put me through these rules and regulation? Because why? They don't have time to really go through and read, except they have hired someone, which is, now that person might be a you who is writing the exam, that can come into place to tell them, okay, this is what is happening in the industry. So this is your own way also that you can get into. You can also get into with a big agency, because the market is quite competitive. So you need to find ways to provide value. Okay. And let's see. Let me see the next topic that I can look for you. Okay. Next thing is timing. Okay. Timing of the exam. You need to practice timing. So what I mean by you need to practice timing is the exam is a 60-minute exam. You need to practice timing. So let's take, for example, 60 minutes. If you're writing the exam and then you have 60 minutes, a question of 60 minutes, what I did is when I walk into that room, the first thing is I had to put my brain and say, okay, I'm just focused. I have to answer all the questions that I have in mind first. So the moment the exam starts, what I do is I start to answer only what I know. For example, I'm going through it, I'm answering as quick as possible. I'm answering as quick as possible, answering as quick as possible. It doesn't mean you should rush too much over a question, but what you know, just answer. Then the things you don't know, you're going to come back to it later. So timing here is very important because if you make a mistake of staying to answer each question one after the other as it comes, you might end up, they say 5 minutes to 5 minutes to the end of the exam, you might still be there with 4 or 5 questions still looking at. So be very careful with this method that you have to you have to answer the ones you know first as quick as possible, then come back because you might know 15, which means if you know those 15, which means you're already almost like passing the exam. So you have to also be, that's why those are also one of the things that you have to also be very strategic about. Learn how to answer the ones you know quick as possible. Focus and do what you know so that then the next time you come back and start looking the ones that are a little bit challenging. Then each question, you have to also have an idea that that question cannot be more than 3 minutes. Timing is very important. Read, focus, and everything is very important. That was what I did. Then when preparing, you have to also know about the mock questions. You have to prepare with a lot of mock questions. You cannot write the exam and you don't prepare more questions. It's never going to work like that. So after you have done your preparation, each day try to do more questions. Yeah. Each time try to do more questions. And then another best thing, if you want to do the more questions quite very well, when you have been doing the more questions, you're answering very easy. Try these tips. I'm going to tell you. So take the more question, set aside 60 minutes and time yourself like this. The question from 1 to 20, answer them just by finding the question on the open book. So let's take, for example, if you have an open book like this. So if they say, what is the maximum age, what will be the maximum duration of a representative agreement? I think you know that the maximum duration of a representative agreement is 2 years. We all know that one. But what you have to do is go and try to use 3 minutes to locate where the answer is on the FIFA study material. This is how you're going to, if you use this method also, you're going to improve your rapidity in finding the questions. So these were the challenge, the games I used to also play with myself. So I would just sit and say, okay, let's take, for example, those questions, I'll try to do my mock questions and there'll be like 20 questions. The first question, let's say if it says, what is the maximum duration? Because I've been also looking at the table of content, I'll just know that, okay, this is under representative agreement. I mean, this is under representation. So I'll go under the FFAR because this is under FFAR. And I will try to know that what is the page number of FFAR. In the book study material of, I think it was 283, if I'm not mistaken, 283 or 275. I'll rush there, open the table of content, look under because it's talking of representation. I'll try to look under representation as quick as possible. Then when I find representation on that table of content, the number, I go there straight. So within, let's say, 45 seconds, I've tried to pick where from the book. I've tried to already locate the answer from the book. So to use the open book, you must also know how the table. You must know a lot about the table of content, and you must also know where let's say, you must also know the numbers of the books. I mean, the numbers of the various chapters, which for me is quite easy. That I'm just giving an example that print your study materials, those 600 something pages, try to print it. Each time when you're around your sofa, you can just hang around, look, FIFA Statutes, you'll be looking, you just glance through, just table of contents, glance through, Stop. You don't need to force yourself. If you do it, just let me say 20, just look around table of content, go look around regularly. You'll be having some mastery of it. So this is how you try to master the table of content, so that when you're also using the open book, you can already know where to go. Okay. So that's another few tips. I'm in Canada. I'm doing the exam this year. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm in your follow. Okay. Yes. Okay, these are questions I've already answered. Okay. Great to know you're doing the exam this year from Canada. Okay, let's look at next situation. Okay, as I said, okay, the exam has no lock. So if you discover everything I've been telling you here, what I did was structure, have an idea of what is coming around, timing. Try to use your time very well. Repeat your past questions, read your table of content, master it. So because this will help you when you're using the open book, and focus also on high frequency topics. High frequency topics are like FIFA agent, FIFA FFAR, FIFA football agent regulation, and also the RSCP. About 70% of the question comes from it. Then you can start looking other parts also. You need to read those other parts, of course, because you will get questions also from it. So those were the structures. So if you apply this, if you are doing this, when we are already doing, when we start preparing the exam, let me say preparatory course for the exam, it's going to be easy, because anything I'm going to tell you, you're just going to, when you move into the exam, it's going to be easy already. Okay, so now let's look into some past questions, and then I will answer those questions, then we go. How many past questions do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm going to rush through these past questions, because I've made a habit that each time we try to answer, each try we finish, I try to answer the question as quick as possible. So the last ones are the past questions. So let's do some past questions. We have 10 past questions here. Then, but I'm going to rush a little bit through it, because we're already 47 minutes away. So the first question is, a player terminates contract in protected period. What's the consequences? I think we answered this question already. Okay, well, I think I answered this question last time. Just a moment. Let's see. Okay. But anyways, a player terminates his contract in protected period. Consequences. I think it's what we're already speaking about. About you cannot terminate a contract in protected period if you don't have just cause. So there's A, warning. B, compensation plus possible sporting sanctions. C, free transfer. D, only club sanction. So the answer is B, which is compensation. You're going to compensate the club plus possible sporting sanctions to you. So then we had salary, unpaid salary for 65 days after written notice. Player may. So if a club does not pay a player for 65 days, and then the player sends the club a written notice, after this, what can the player do? A, player may suspend and maybe suspended only. No, okay, suspend. He might suspend himself. B, terminate his contract with just cause. C, wait for the season to end before moving on. D, seek mediation only. Well, the answer here is you have the right, after you have informed your employer, which is the club, about paying your salary, and they have not paid you for 2 months, and you have still given them notice, you have your right to terminate your contract. You have the right. You have the right to terminate a contract with just cause. So, 3, a 17-year-old transfer is allowed if agent consent, if the agent is consent. B, parents relocate for non-football reason. C, club agrees. D, player signs long contract. So A 17-year-old first is a minor. So this is the case where I say you need to learn how to interpret question. So first of all, a 17-year-old is a minor. So the contract can only be allowed if the parents relocate for non-football reasons. Yes, those are part of the reasons also. So B is correct. So training compensation is triggered when a player signs his first professional contract. Yes, that is correct. B, every transfer, no. C, after 23, no. D, domestically only, no. So now you, in this case, you also need to know the definition of training compensation. So the question is, when is training compensation triggered? So on a normal, this in training compensation is triggered when the player signs his first professional contract, and the answer there is A, as they said it. Okay, the next question was under solidarity mechanism. So they say solidarity mechanism applies when A, domestic transfer, B, international transfer during contract, C, retirement, D, free transfer. We spoke about solidarity mechanism. So the question here also is solidarity mechanism triggers applies when the player transfer internationally. It applies only to international transfer solidarity mechanism. Okay. Okay. And then question 6, maximum duration of maximum representation agreement duration. So here is, what is the maximum duration of a representation agreement? A, 3 years, B, 5 years, C, 2 years, D, unlimited. As I spoke to you people earlier, the maximum duration of a representative agreement is 2 years. And I have a question here. But physical materials are not allowed this year. But physical materials. What do you mean physical materials are not allowed this year? What do you mean by that? Do you mean the open book is not allowed this year, that you cannot search the book? Is that what you mean? Because normally when you write the exam, let's say you have the study material that you open. It's not physical. I don't mean physical, the book, but you know the study material, the PDF. So let me know what you mean by that. Because most of the people who use the PDF or the study materials, they don't actually use the book. The PDF is always on, like, your computer. You open your computer with the PDF. So let me know actually what you say. Yeah, just let me know. Okay, but let's continue with the past questions. So I was talking about maximum representation. So it's 2 years, and also 2 years non-renewable. I mean, so you have to. I mean, there's no automatic renewal. It's renewable, but it's not automatic. So you have to speak with the player. You have to sit down with the player again. The people speak if people want to continue the agreement or not. Because before, in the past, an agent can sign a contract with you and just try to hook on the player, and hook on the player, and the player is struggling with the representation agreement. For example, the player has no club and the agent is there, and the agent tells the player, well, we have a representative agreement, even if the agent is looking for no club for the player. So, but they are still attached together, and it takes the player's career nowhere. So that's why they always say, when you have a representation agreement with the player, once it expires, it's not an automatic renewal. You people need to speak again and say, do we like this agreement? Let's move forward. Let's do another one. So that's how it happens. So question 7, when is dual representation permitted? So dual representation, so that's representing both parties. And if you have read also under representation, you know that it's only allowed in one. A, releasing plus engaging entity. And you know, there's most people, when they hear the word releasing and plus engaging entity, there are two. You have to understand that these are the terminology that you get from the exam. So it's the buying club and the selling club, but they put it like releasing and engage and plus engaging entity. I mean not entity, releasing plus the engaging. And so you will have you have this kind of words being used. You will not hear the buying club, the selling club, but you have to know that the selling club is like releasing, the buying club is like the engaging. So, anyways, let's move forward. Dual representation is permitted. A, releasing plus engaging. B, individual plus engaging. C, all party. D, none. What do you think? But anyways, let me answer because we don't have time. So dual representation is only permitted with individual plus engaging, which is B. The answer is B. So the next question was question 8. An agency employer may perform agency services. So here, this question is saying that, let's say, for example, you're an agent. Let's say you have passed your exam. You have passed the exam, and then you have passed the exam. Then you need now to hire. You need to hire someone because most agency, let's say when most people have their agency, they try to hire scouts. You try to hire different people that you work with. So let's say when you pass the exam, you have had your scout. Let's say your scout, your accountant, and you're having like 10 players in your agency, something like that. Let's give that example. So let's say, for example, you were not you were ill, and then you couldn't do you couldn't do things, and then there's a representation agreement that had to be renewed, had to be renewed. How, and then let's say you're sick. How does that happen if you're sick? Can you just can you tell your one of your scout and say, oh, since this player knows you, let's go and renew his contract for me. I mean, or just go and not contract, just go and renew the representative agreement with him. So that's basically what that question is asking. So normally, before going back to the question, any agreement you have with the player, you, the agent, you're only the one in charge of doing negotiation. Anybody you hire at your agency, whether it's the scout, your finance, your accountant, everyone, no one is in charge of contract negotiation. Only you and your signature has to be there. Protect. I always say, of course, you want sometimes things to be done easily, but protect yourself, because once FIFA start finding out that maybe you are letting people do the negotiation, your license can be suspended. And when they suspend your license for 2 years, that's huge. And most of the time, if FIFA is suspending your license, it's always like for 2 years. 2 years. Imagine you having worked hard to achieve this license, and then you get suspended for amount of time. So, anyways, going back to the question was, an agency employer may perform agency services. A, yes. B, if supervised. C, no. D, if experienced. So the answer here is completely no. Even if supervised, you can, whether you're supervised or not, only one person provides, if you read the agent's rules and regulations, only one person provides agent services. It is the player. It's the agent himself who have the license. If you hire people under your agency, they are just like to do different tasks. They are not there to put signature with player. They are just there to do different tasks. So that's how it goes. Okay, and then the next question here is, protected period last. How long does a protected period last? I think we've been speaking a lot about protected period. A, 2 seasons. 2 seasons. Okay, this is very good, because this question, if I'm sure we'll just read through the answers and then you'll see. B, 3 seasons if contract signs before 28. C, entire contract. D, 1 season. So now, for some people who are always in a rush, that's why it's good to read all the answers. They might run and go and pick 2 seasons, because the definition of protected period is, if the player is before 28, it is 3 seasons. And if the player is after 28, it's 2 seasons. So now, for someone who is in a rush to answer questions, so that you need to always pay attention to all the questions, the person might hurriedly go and say 2 seasons, not knowing that the B answer says 3 seasons if contract signs before 28, which that's the right answer. So the question was, protected period lasts A, 2 seasons, B, 3 seasons if contract signs before 28. 3, I mean C, entire contract. D, 1 season. So the answer here is B, which is 3 seasons if the contract signed before 28. So what you need to also do is you need to pay attention to get the answers and read and just try to understand the question. Okay. And lastly, what is solidarity percentage? So I think I explained this already about solidarity percentage, that solidarity percentage is 5% of transferred shared among the clubs that train the players from at the age of 12 to 23. So now they just asked here, the question now that they asked was, what is solidarity percentage? Then they gave you, for example, percentage this. So you now have to choose. So it shows that you have to already know what the percentage is. If not, you're just going to do guesswork here. So let's go back to the question. The question was, what is solidarity percentage? What percentage of solidarity mechanism? A, 3%, B, 5%, C, 10%, D, 2%. So the answer there is B, 5%. And which, if you don't have an idea of, or you have not come across solidarity mechanism, you will not also know, you will also know that it's 5%. Anyways, we have done some work today, and then I think most of people understood many things, some few things. So before leaving, bring anything you have to ask tomorrow so that we can always speak about it. If you're facing difficulties in also trying to register for the exam, for those who have registered, good luck. If you need any questions about registration or whatsoever, let me know. I can always try to guide you and help you find some information about that. Then anything you want to know, let me know. Then I can always help on that. Anyways, it's been an hour we started, so we'll have to stop here. Tomorrow is another day. We will be here. I'll be here 9:30 tomorrow. So show up. Let's share another moment of preparing you for the exam so that you can pass with flying colors. So tomorrow 9:30, same time as I started today. 9:30 Eastern European time. That's my time because I live in Finland. I don't know what time ever it might be your time, but what you just need to take your time and convert it. Make sure it's 9:30 Eastern European time. Then we'll be good to go. Then you will see me here. So tomorrow I'll be here, and then we're going to look at other things again that can keep driving you a little bit closer to your preparation of the exam. Okay, so I'll leave you here. So and then tomorrow we can do other stuff. And just not to forget, when we're communicating, if you have something, that a topic that you want me to prepare and come and bring it here so that we speak about it, you can always try to give suggestions on the timeline. I mean on the chat box that you are facing difficulties with this, so that I can also look into that. When I come back, I can let you know. So feel free to have a question. If you have a question, let me know to find out about it and bring it to you people and I will help answer it for you. Okay. Okay. So it was nice chatting, or not chatting, it was nice talking with you all. And it was nice also seeing you people, few questions being asked. Yeah, it motivates or bring me back to the next day. So tomorrow, another day. Take care and bye for now. Cheers.